Hey, 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 it's your girl Audra Richardson with Love and Lead Like a Queen. I am so excited to have my friend back on this next episode. Thank you for coming back, Kendall.
Hey,
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm much better. God is good. So yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Yes, thank you for your time. And I know you're busy and out here helping families and children, counseling. And so I know we had discussed you coming back, and we really want to have discussion on the topic of mental health. We are seeing our world, our communities are really struggling with mental health. And if I recall the conversation we ended, we were talking about couples, and we all know that this is the month of love for February, right? You know, this when everyone goes spend all this money. The men are spending money to come home and bring all the flowers and all the gifts and to share their love. And so we were talking about, for the couples that are dealing in this in counseling, um, for counseling, for therapy. But let's really discuss also couples that may be dealing with mental health. Maybe that's one individual that's in the relationship and they're dealing, coming to counseling, or we seeing couples that's coming to counseling for their relationship, or are we seeing even some to deal with, the struggle of grief or whatever that mental health may be.
Yeah, so we see both. Currently, when an individual comes into counseling, well, a couple, should I say, they come into counseling. The idea for couples counseling, marital counseling, is to focus on the relationship.
Mhm.
So that is the sole focus. And when we identify that there is something going on with one of the individuals, we'll recommend, hey, we recommend that you do individual therapy so that you can work on yourself, right?
That's right.
And sometimes they go and sometimes they don't. But it also, that your individual stuff is definitely going to affect the relationship holistically. And so, especially if one person is really working on themselves and the other person is not, then they're really unequally yoked, and it
Mhm.
makes it hard in therapy for
So
sure.
it's making it hard when they think they're coming to deal with the relationship, and it may be that they need individual counseling. So you find it, like you said, that sometimes they don't. So if you have that situation, because the reason I'm asking is because sometimes, in a relationship, you're going for one thing, and it may be that you need counseling just for individual, for you, so that you can identify what's going on with you and you can get the help that you need to work. Like you said, it makes you better, and then you can make the relationship better when you do the work on yourself. So when you see that, or you deal with a couple, in that matter, and they don't want to do the individual counseling, what do you tend to see them do? Do you tend to see maybe the relationship kind of go separate ways, or they continue to just focus on the relationship? What do you kind of see in
Excuse
those cases?
Yeah, so that's a good question. When they do not want to do the individual work, I say red flag, right? I tell my clients, like, so okay, well, what does it say about the person who does not want to do the work? What does it say about the person that is not willing to invest in themselves to love you better
Mhm.
and love themselves better? But how can one love someone else if they don't love themselves? you know and so there's a lot of core issues there, core belief issues that are present, but that is definitely a big thing. So sometimes people feel the pressure, or the spouse, like, well, I'm not gonna stay if you ain't gonna do your part. I ain't gonna work. Or if you don't go to counseling, then I'm not gonna. I see both men telling their wives, you got to come. And what happens is, uh, they'll go for the other person, and they not really, they don't get the true um experience of therapy, because they're just going for somebody else and not going for themselves. And
Mhm.
so that relationship tends to falter. That's been a big thing for the people that I'm doing divorce care with. We spent a year trying to do marital, uh,
Mhm.
and now we're at a point where we're doing just divorce care.
Mm.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, that's difficult. And like we during February, we love to shine on love, and and it's glamorous, like it's great. But we have to be honest. I think that we should, there's two sides to every coin. There's two sides to a piece of paper. There's two sides to everything. So sometimes we just like, when we're talking about love, we like to just talk about the good side, the side that, we show. So, but there's another side to every relationship that I do believe that every couple should, either have a counselor, a therapist, or someone that they can talk to help them get through things, right? And some couples, they don't want to do the work. They wait a long time before, like someone maybe had left the house, right? Or they left the bedroom. See, people don't talk about this, right? We just talk about it when people are already filed for divorce or things have really got out of hand. And so I think that everyone should deal with counseling, should have a safe place where they can go talk to outside of their spouse. And so when you're dealing with mental health, because now we discuss it, right? Now you hear it all over, social media. People are comfortable now saying the words mental health. And so when you're dealing with an individual where if you have a couple that you're seeing and one is saying, okay, yes, I will do the work to deal with whatever that comes up in the counseling session. What do you recommend for, so let's give an example. Maybe it's the man that needs to do individual work and the woman. Do you have them also to be working on themselves in the meantime as well, so that they can help their spouse as well? Or do you give them both assignments individual, if that makes sense, my question?
Okay. So whenever, if I recommend that one individual goes to counseling, most of the time, unless it's very severe, and I see that, they both need work, and sometimes they both do, they both do. A lot of times one person is already in counseling.
Okay.
That's how they kind of are familiar with it. They feel like it's safe. And the counseling to one person may be new. And so they like, I don't want to do this. I'm just doing the marital part, right? Because ain't nothing wrong with me, And a lot of times that be the thing. They don't want no fingers pointed at them. They want to feel like it's not me. It's a relationship problem that we having. But what people have to understand is that, like, if you have a relationship problem, then that it's going to affect your mental health. How can you be okay mentally, emotionally, and not have good healthiness in your relationship? So I would give both of them assignments together to support one another, because if you're one, then why not work together, right? In oneness. Of course, the spouse has to pull back and can't do everything for them, right? That becomes codependent relationship. And that's part of the problem. But you hit on something that's so crazy, because people wait till it's too late and they want a miracle. Like, what are the tools right now? Okay, I give you all the tools, but do you understand that once you waited such a long time, there's so much bitterness and resentment that's built up. There's so many issues that you have swept under the rug and that's underlining that you have to unpeel, and like an onion, it's so much that you have to go back and work through. The atonement, the forgiveness, and the reconciliation. That's a difficult work. And people don't always want to do the work. That's because it's so much. So that kind of issue, it takes double, sometimes half the amount of time that it took you to get there, is that much time to work through it.
Yeah, because sometimes if you're not careful, people will kind of just put a nice rug over it, right? Or overlook it, turn their head. We have to get away from this turning our head or not expressing that, oh, you hurt me. And then sometimes you do have, like, women, we're very vocal and we'll keep bringing it up. So what do you say about the spouses that, they keep bringing up what happened in the past when they're in counseling? Because again, we're in this month of love, right? It all goes hand in hand. Just because February 14 come and you get the flowers and you get the candy and the gifts, the 15th coming. And whatever you were dealing with on the 13th may show up on the 15th. So what are some tools like you would give someone when they're already dealing with something in their marriage and they're in counseling and you're like, okay, things are good, but you keep bringing up what this person did in the past? what would you tell them in counseling? You know, how do we work through that? Because sometimes people, they don't know how to move on. They're going to keep bringing it up over and over again because they're so hurt.
You know, one thing is for sure, you can't, the relationship is going to suffer if you keep bringing something up. If you do not let the person live it down, you holding a relationship back, because a relationship, nothing can move forward. I mean, it's like you pushing, you saying you want me to accelerate, but your foot on the brake. Like, which one we gonna do? This not a stick shift. We got to choose one, right? We have to be able to move forward and being neutral, and that's, you know, we are not, that relationships just don't do that. And so the idea is um to forgive. So they need to do forgiveness work, right? But a lot of times people are like, well, how do I forgive? And so it's a, you know, few steps to forgiveness, and that part is work, because forgiveness is a choice emotionally and intellectually. There's two decisions that has to be made, and that part of forgiveness, the person has to do that in order for them to stop bringing it back. And men and women do this, especially when we're talking about you know, adultery and, you know, betrayal and those type of things. They want to keep bringing it back up. And what that also says is that that anger that's connected to that, they haven't let it go, because every little thing makes them angry again, right? It sets them back off. And so they really have to work through that. And you know, I tell them that we're not gonna go anywhere until you do the work of forgiveness. And so we have to take a step back, and I make that one person do the forgiveness work, and I give them homework.
Yeah, that forgiveness work. Oh my gosh, it is. And even forgiving yourself.
That's true.
Sometimes that forgiveness, forgiving yourself, can hold you longer than the person that you hurt. They've already forgave you. They've moved on with life, and you're still sitting up and you haven't forgiven yourself. Now that's something that that I even recommend for women when I talk to women, is forgiving themselves. You know, because I've been there. Like, we have to be real. We've all have made mistakes and done things to ourselves, allowed things to happen to ourselves or to other people, hurt other people. And when you are really hanging on to that stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, what if they don't forgive me? Or what if the people, don't forgive me? No, you have to learn to forgive yourself. And that's work. I think I don't know. That might be more work than the person forgiving you. You be waiting for them to bring it up. You're like, yeah, I know you're gonna leave me, or yeah, I know, you didn't forgive me. I know it's like you just waiting for them to throw it up that you did this or you said this the last time. So I don't know. Yeah, that forgiveness is a big one, and trust. How do you rebuild that trust in the individual when you're willing to do the work? And I do think that when you truly love someone, you have this agape love. It's like to love like Christ. If you don't want God to, if you want God to forgive us, just forgive us for our sins and not continue to bring it up, and we want to move on, you have to learn to forgive the person that you love, the person that you said these vows with, the one that you, maybe if you have kids, you have kids with them, and you don't want to see a sense of division in your household. And so I know that we do see a lot of families are splitting up. It's hard. It's hard when you see it. We're seeing a lot of people divorcing for many, many reasons. We're seeing a lot of mental health going on, a lot of suicidal, which we're gonna have you back. We're gonna talk about that. Probably on the next episode, we're gonna talk about the suicidal. But I really want to talk about this love, because love, to me, it means different to a lot of people. Love goes across the board, is different for a lot of people. And so do you tend to, when you have couples come in for counseling, do you really see that they really understand love, or are they actually in love with each other? Because I think sometimes people don't understand the difference. Like, I can love you, but not be in love with you. Or I love what you do for me, or I love how you treat me, but I'm not in love with you. Do you kind of see that in the conversation when they're talking through the counseling?
Sometimes you do see that, and you see so many things, because a lot of times people get married even for the wrong reasons, like Um, it's so much right now that
Yeah.
people have got into relationships that they just rushed into them for the desire of marriage, for the desire of sex, for the desire of, uh, money and, financial stability. They jumped into these relationships because of pregnancy, and and it's 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 years later. And they're like, man, what have I gotten myself into? And they feel like, well, we're gonna keep working it out because we do love each other at this point. But, what does that look like? And so that is definitely a struggle in identifying what love looks like. And, so I have to definitely identify what love is.
Mhm.
Um, and, just read the definition. What does Webster say?
What,
Get the
what do you think
definition.
love is? Okay, let's ask Google. you know, because love may have been modeled before me different than love was modeled before someone else, right? And because
Absolutely.
of course, we're believing we're gonna go to the word of God. What does love say? Okay, we know what love is in the word of God, but love modeled before us in our home. How did we tend to marry who our father was, right? Who he is. And so it's almost like you think you're looking for someone that's opposite of your father, but you end up marrying your father. If we have to be like, we just gonna be honest, like you be like, I don't want that, I want this, right? But then God said, no, that ain't what you need. I'm gonna give you what you need. Okay. I know that's what happened. That's what happened to me. But it's like, did you have a role model of what love is? Did you have an atmosphere of love? And that shapes who you are and how you set your atmosphere, and so I just wonder is if when couples are going to counseling because they are trying to work out things in their marriage, if they really truly understand what love is, how love is supposed to feel, because love don't always feel. Let's go there, because
Let's go.
sometimes love don't always feel this all peachy warm feeling, because I can be in love with you, but at this moment, because okay, hold on, let me back up. Just because I love you and I'm in love with you, I may not love you at this moment because you said something to me or you did something to me. Let's talk about that. Because I think sometimes people think because you said this and hurt me, that now I no longer love you, but I still love you. Because that can go across the board in couples and even with your kids, right? Sometimes our kids do things, but we still love them. So let's talk about that. Have you ever had spouses where they're talking and like, well, you did this, and now I don't love you anymore? No, you sure you felt out of love because someone did something or said something to you? So let's talk about that. That sometimes people have, it's kind of like this on surface love type of love.
Yeah. See, agape love is just is so organic and so authentic, and a lot of people don't get to experience that, what they think. And I tell them all the time, I was like, honey, you have no idea what love is. This
Yeah.
is the best you can do,
Mm-hmm.
But to your question, like it goes both ways, because sometimes people feel like, well, they don't love me anymore. I feel like I'm not loved because of how they're angry with me, or, I messed up, so they're not going to love me anymore. And love is not that way. Love is it always abounds, right? It always
Mm-hmm.
um,
Love
is,
covers.
it does, it covers.
Mm.
And it's secure,
Mhm.
in every area. And so, you know, not everybody, they don't grasp that, and they definitely didn't see that, from men and women, what that looks like growing up. And so I think a lot of times couples have to identify what love looks like
Yeah.
and how they seen it when they were growing up. I mean, when we're talking about, even domestic violence, when people say, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I see my parents do, like my dad was this and my mom was this. And, I have to stay in this relationship, you know, um, and do all of these things because this is what I seen growing up. No matter if he cheats on me, no matter if he doesn't work, no matter if he doesn't come home, I gotta stay because my mom stayed.
Mm-hmm.
So that love just that it doesn't always have to just stay just because
Yeah.
it's more than just love, but
Yeah.
it's so many levels to it.
Yeah. Love doesn't cause physical harm. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. You
Yeah,
know,
that's covering me.
right. Yeah, it covers. And see, I think sometimes people take that word like, no, we're not covering up any bruises. We're not covering that up. Okay, been there, done that one. All right, no. um, but love it covers. And I think as women and men, we have to learn, okay, what is it? What are the boundaries?
Mm.
I think sometimes individual we all right, we go into relationships, not only um romantic relationships, husband, wife, but friendships, everything. Like this goes across the board. There should be boundaries for people, that this is a boundary that I have because I love you and I love hard and I love, like, I'm going to give you all of me when I say that I love you. But this is a boundary. And so do you think that sometimes the individuals come into the relationship with boundaries?
No, they don't always have boundaries. That's a huge thing. Boundaries is like, everybody needs to read boundary book because majority of people do not have the boundaries, and they don't have the standard. They don't set it up. And sometimes people, they hear the word boundaries because of right now it's a hype word. It's a important word. People are using it a lot, but they don't know how to maintain those boundaries, because what happens is once you set a boundary, you set that standard. People who are not used to that boundary, they're going to give you pushback. They're not going to like your boundary. They're like, what? You ain't never told me no. You ain't never. So of course they're going to give you pushback. And I tell my clients, especially right now, my millennials, like, you have to have that boundary. You have to maintain that boundary, because if you don't, then you are lowering who you are. And then also what we see is codependency. It means that I'm going to put you before me because you're more valuable than me. And when you start to minimize you and don't see your own value, then that goes back again to self-love, right? Which I'm love. But when you so in love with everything else, but not in love with yourself, you got to love yourself. And so that's a big thing that I'm trying to communicate as well.
Self-love.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good. Yeah, because I think it's important for as parents that we show our children self-love. And some adults, they don't know what that is. Like, us as mothers, we know how to love our kids. Hey, we love those kids. Don't mess with our kids. We're gonna, give them the best. We're gonna always be there. But we have to stop and say, hey, do I love myself? Ask yourself, do I love myself? Do I really care about myself that I'm pouring out so much? You can't pour out so much to your children and your spouse and your friends and your job and all these things, and you're not taking care of yourself. And see, sometimes when we talk about that, people just think we're talking about our hair and our nails and looking and smelling good. No, are you taking care of your mental health? Are you taking care of your spirit, your mind? What are you thinking about? Because it starts there. Are you thinking on those things that are, hey, we throw out these scriptures, okay? Are you thinking on these things that are lovely, honey? Thinking on the right things, because it's so much going on around us. We have to make sure that the storm that's going on around us do not get in us, okay?
Absolutely.
we just talked about that. You have to make sure that they don't get down and inside of you. You keep thinking about it so much, you mess around and you don't even know who you are. And then you add a spouse, and he don't know who he. Hold on. Talking about a whirlwind inside the house, okay?
You're absolutely right.
Everybody sitting there talking about, well, I don't know what happened, because you're not thinking on the right things, and you're allowing the outside to get inside. And so now you're dealing with some mental health issues because everything going on outside is inside of you. And now your relationship is tore up and your kids are paying attention and they're probably acting out as well.
Yes, they learning from you. I guarantee it.
They're picking it up. They're picking up what you putting down.
Everything.
Everything.
You close the door, they listening. Everything that you do, they are picking it up. How you love yourself. Is it okay to love myself?
Absolutely.
Do something kind to myself. Everything that we do, they are picking it up. And we pick you.
And our spouse, that they are picking up how to love you by watching you.
They are.
By what you say.
We do. We teach them.
We're teaching them. And so sometimes we think it's by what we are saying to them. No, they're watching how you treat yourself. And that's what I think that women and men that's gonna watch this video, you're gonna listen to this too. I know I see y'all. I see you in the insights. I see y'all listening too. But I just want to point this out because as women, we have to, in the dating process, and we're gonna need to do an episode on that. In the dating process, because it's not so much of what you attract, it's what you entertain. We're gonna talk about that.
We do need to talk about that.
Because I ladies, we're gonna talk about what you entertain, okay? Because if you're a feminine woman, now y'all know me, you follow me, you know, you've seen me. I'm a very feminine woman, and you will attract people that you should and you shouldn't. But it's what you entertain, what you choose to entertain that can get you in trouble, that we don't need to entertain. So we have to know the difference. That's why the boundaries is very important. And that's why we need to make sure that we are loving ourselves, because people are paying attention.
They are.
They pay attention to everything.
They do.
And you set the standard for yourself. It all begins with yourself. And so you say you see that sometimes when you're talking to the individuals. So I really hate that we do see a lot of couples, you know, divorcing at this time. I really don't even like to talk about it really. I haven't been very vocal on my social media platforms about divorce because I hate to see divorce. My parents didn't get divorced. I lost my mother 2020, married over 50 years. So, you know, it's just heartbreaking for me to even think about it. It's like, okay, did y'all do the work? Did you go straight to get a divorce or whatever case may be? Sometimes I understand that people just need it calls for a divorce. But to me, I think about the kids too. What it's doing to the children in the home, where they have to decide. If it makes them feel like they have to decide mom over dad. And so are you seeing with the kids where are they being vocal where they're talking about when their parents are going through the divorce?
Yes. And so divorce is very hard on children, you know. I am such an advocate for, like love and, but I'm definitely against an unhealthy home because,
Absolutely.
like you staying in a marriage that is minimizing, belittling, emotionally unhealthy, toxic, it damages your child because your children are seeking identity from you, both of you. And when they're seeking that identity, if you minimized, then they feel minimized, and so then that's why so many people are struggling right now with, am I worthy? Am I enough? Because that identity was already formed and internalized. And so kids are so, they're sponges and they say it's like up to 5 years old, but even my teenagers, they struggle with divorce, probably more so. I think the older they get, the harder they struggle with divorce. Kids in college, they really struggle with divorce because they've been used to a certain environment, a certain dynamic, and so they used to it, and they desire for it to stay that way. And so that change is very drastic, traumatic for them. for sure it is. And so they definitely should be in therapy throughout. They need divorce care just like the parents do.
Mm. Yes, I would agree. I agree that the kids need to be in that spot. It's just a hard thing. It's like, what do you do? So let's talk about this. We're gonna give them our listeners some, as they like to say now, some red flags. Because sometimes we go into these relationships and we ignore the red flags. That could be the women ignoring it or the men, right? So what would you say would be some red flags when you are in the dating process for women and men before they, before we get to the down the aisle, right? Sometimes we ignore them now. that maybe there's some self-love issues going on here, some I'm not worthy, or mental health, because there's some things that you can kind of ignore right there that that you're like, oh, okay, maybe it's okay. What would you say some red flags?
Yeah, like you said, mental health. I see, oh Lord, getting married to a alcoholic and then be depressed because he is drink. Well, he was drunk on y'all dates.
You know
So
he drank 3 glasses.
he had 5 shots. So that's nothing that shouldn't take.
Right.
Like people are like, oh, it's a whirlwind. Well, you knew that he was keeping you a secret. So so when he tell you that he y'all about to get married, but he's still working on his divorce, that's not a surprise because that shouldn't be a surprise.
Absolutely.
So that's a red flag. I tell, like a lot of times people jump into having sex, and what sex does is create you to be one and be deeply in love and blinded and so that type of connection, it's you shouldn't have that kind of connection till you know somebody. You already chose them. Everything is already perfect.
Absolutely.
You've
Down
seen
to
everything.
the courthouse. Down to the courthouse. You married.
You know, but if you do that, now you missing the red flag of are they emotionally healthy? Are they emotionally available? Are they over the last person that they dated? Are they stuck? Do they want to do something with their lives? Because people are like, oh well, I'm outgrowing them. Well, they told you that they didn't want to get another job. They like being at the counter at McDonald's. They didn't want to be the manager, so whatever that they've already identified it. And I always tell my clients, Medea said, she quotes Maya Angelou and says, when they show you who they are, believe them. A lot of times we don't want to believe them. We don't want to believe because what they're showing you may not align to what they're telling you, right? So that's a red flag. Okay, well, you said that you hard working, but I never seen you go to work.
Come on.
And so then, or you say you honest and you about integrity, but I see you helping somebody cheat on this. But so things like that, you have to
little bitty lies. Them little bit, what they said on white lies. They be them little bitty.
Right. Yeah. If she all her friends is cheating on their husbands, then what kind of that's what you want to marry to? Because what does that tell you about her and her integrity? Like she's not trying to help them, so red flags about like you said, both men and women and what they are identifying, there's a lot of them and we don't always pay attention, like, oh well, he treated me so good, he bought me all of these things, but those things are that glitter and gold. It's just a look good, but what else is there? What else? You're beautiful, but what does that mean to him? And so let's look beyond and let's set a standard, both of us. And that's what a big thing is, and are they working on themselves? Because again, if you work on yourself, you didn't did all this work, and then you're gonna be disappointed when you saying, hey, why don't you do this? Because they won't level up. And you outgrow them. And like, do they have the capacity to grow? Because you're still growing, you're evolving, you're changing. Do they have that kind of capacity?
Mm.
Yes, yes, yes. And I'm gonna show you what I tell my clients all the time. It's like if you've got all this liquid and this is all they can hold,
Uh-huh.
y'all not equal.
At
What
all.
what you gonna do? You gonna run them over. It's gonna be overflowing, right?
Run.
They don't have it. They don't have enough. And so then you can't make them have enough. They have the desire to have enough. You can't make
Ooh,
somebody be something that they don't have, and so I both well,
both.
I
You can't make them.
you can't make them. You can't make her see this way, or you can't make him see this way. If they have a little mind, they can't grow you, they can't expound your perspective. You can't help them. So,
Hmm.
oh, honey, we got to go about that. We have to do a whole session on that.
Absolutely, because you kind of ran through some of them, and I'm like, oh, hold up. You kind of
Yeah,
ran
yeah,
through, like, let's talk about all those red flags,
yeah.
because now it's kind of cute to kind of post these red flags, but people are really ignoring these red flags. We all have. If we was to be honest, we have
I'll have
ignored red flags in one of our relationships. I know,
absolutely.
but me and my husband, time we talk about the red flags we used to ignore in our
Yeah.
relationships in the past. We
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, we was even talking about something today, and it's funny that we can sit up and just laugh and talk. And oh my gosh, she was just dying laughing. But it
Mm-hmm.
was funny because it's like, man, you get so caught up in the wrong thing, and you attract people that you're chasing after. But when you stop chasing after the things that you think that you want, God send you who you need, what you need in your life, to where you can grow. You grow, you grow together, and you don't have to worry about, being on these two separate pages, or whatever case may be. And so I thank God every day. Lord, thank you, Lord, that you send me what I needed, but it's still work. No matter who you have, it's still work in a relationship, working on the love, working on forgiving, because what may not be something major and big to me in my relationship is still love, forgiving, right? Forgiving the little things sometimes people do to you. And so I think in a relationship, period, we have to make sure that we're forgiving, that we love ourselves. Make sure that you love yourself. Just like you love those kids, mothers. I'd say that a few times, because we love our kids, but we don't show that same love sometimes if we're not careful across the board for ourselves and for our spouse.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bishop, I think he preached about that one time in one of his sermons. Mothers, y'all love your kids, but can we get some of that love too? Can you love us on that same level, and forgive us like you forgive those kids?
Mm-hmm.
Them kids can do stuff, and we're like, okay, I forgive you, and we just start over the next day. But we have to make sure we're doing the same thing in our relationships. And so, that's a whole lot. I think we got a lot in this episode that we are going to discuss on the next one. Some quite a few. We're going to talk about those red flags since Valentine's Day. So we're gonna
Yeah.
be seeing all these posts and everybody's sharing all this stuff Valentine's Day. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about this time just a little bit, hitting on some things, because just because one couple may be in a loving space, someone else may be hurting and dealing with mental health in their relationship, divorce, and all these types of things. And so just because you are in a happy place doesn't mean someone else is. And so we just want to kind of shine some lights, talk about those red flags, and tell them, hey, get some help in your relationship, get some help for yourself, get some help for your children if you need it. Now is the time. Don't wait. Don't put it off another month, another year. Don't think that you have all the answers. Let's get some tools. Let's get some people in place.
Mm-hmm.
Seek out counseling. You can see her information would be in this underneath somewhere below. Click it, tag it, get on a call with her for counseling. Of course, you have me with Lovingly Like a Queen, but if I sense that you need counseling, a licensed therapist, I am going to send you to her, because I want to see you win. I want to see every lady love and lead like a queen. And so that's all you have. Do you have anything that you like to leave them with before we leave?
No, I just hope to see them again.
Okay. But we'll see you on the next episode of Love and Lead Like a Queen. And you all have a good one.